Every year in August, South Africa marks Women's Month. Women's Month is a tribute not only to the thousands of women who marched on that day in 1956, but also a tribute to the pioneers of the women's movement in this country. It's a time to celebrate women's achievements and the important role that women of all races and religions play in South African society. Let's take this discussion further by bringing in Nombuso Gumede, now the Agile practice lead at Mpilo Tech. Nombuso, thank you so much for joining us and good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Unati. Thank you for having me.
Now, Nombuso, you've extensive experience in the IT space. You are a Prince 2 practitioner, safe Agilist, and a certified CMMI associate. Let's start here. Why did you choose this industry? Why did it appeal to you? And how difficult were the barriers of entry as a woman, if at all?
So I'm actually one of the stranger cases because IT landed on my lap. I didn't go search it out. Like many people, I found that I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do after school. When we were growing up, I think most of the items that we were told about in high school were quite limited to, hey, you can be a doctor, you can be a teacher, you can be a lawyer. But the IT space wasn't really unpacked for us. So luckily for me, I had the grades, so my options were open. I started out in medicine. I then later studied actuarial science. But I find myself landing in an IT company as a project administrator, so at the very entry level. And it was through those eyes of being exposed to what was happening in that organization that I took a leap and started studying the IT.
Now, there's no doubt, I mean, your journey is obviously very different to a lot of other women. Whilst we know that over the years, you know, the barriers of entry into the space have opened up for young women, especially yourself, but it's not always the case, is it? I mean, what are some of the challenges that you are experiencing in this space?
So I think one thing that is ideal and is happening to most people is that within our spaces, you're still finding after so many years that there are still many women that feel lost, they feel alone, and they feel that they have to tackle the challenges of the professional world on their own.
All right, Nombuso, try and see if you can move around. We're losing you for a little bit there, but try and see if you can move around. But whilst you do that and find a secure line and a side, maybe let me ask you this. In your company at Mpilo Tech, I believe it is, you know, what are some of the things that are pioneering in that space that you are currently doing now? I mean, we are in a pandemic, so obviously the world of work has changed dramatically. What are some of the things that you needed to do as a business, you know, just to fit into this new normal and some of the challenges that you're currently dealing with as an IT business and an industry?
Okay, so maybe let me just take a step back and tell you what Mpilo Tech is about. I hope you can hear me. So Mpilo Tech is a South African company. It's an IT company where we found that Southern Africa faces a technical shortage, you know, a skill shortage in the technical space, especially within IT. So we strive to actually be a model of excellence for our people, our society, our industry, and our continent. What Mpilo Tech is specializing in is the financial sector, with an anchor of our clients being the major banks, your standard banks, your ABSAs, your FNBs. And we've spent the larger part of the last 6 years building our technical and business expertise, with a major focus on the digital banking as well as the multi-experience application development. And we make use of the terminus Terminus digital banking platforms. So that's where we are a pioneer within Africa, not just South Africa. What Mpilo Tech did was we proudly brought the Coney omnichannel platform to the African continent, and we are a proud Terminus partner. We're actually the only African partner that is partnered with Terminus, which is an amazing achievement. With COVID hitting our shores, we had to pivot very quickly because there was no time for anybody to think. And lockdown hit, it disrupted labor markets, it reduced our interpersonal interactions within the office. So the most immediate thing that quickly happened is that we needed to accelerate how we pivoted, and the trends of working from home began. And that was a major shift. I mean, we used to being office bound, the coffee, chats at the coffee machine, to quickly get updates on what's going on. But now that we're all at home, we're working from home, we're online, we're on your Zoom, you're on your Skypes, that whole etiquette and the interpersonal dynamics had to take a shift. We had to rely on trust, the employer trust with the employee, trying to make sure that productivity isn't affected while you're working from home, and still trying to get the same output as you were getting while you were in the office. So as management teams, we needed to figure out how best to still be available for our staff and to still provide for them, the tools that they need, the communication channels that they needed to still be able to perform their functions, but now from a different location, from now being at home. Most of them, we have families, so schools were now we're working online. So the dynamics, even within the household, changed. So you're working from home, you've got kids that are working. So trying to find that work-life balance, I think, was the major thing that we had to focus on and try and assist and make sure that everybody was on board and still being able to be productive.
Now let's go into this topic. Obviously, there are a lot of things and strides that women have taken since 1956, when those thousands of women marched to the union buildings, for pass laws, etc. But there are still challenges. And one of the things we can't run away from is a high rate of gender-based violence in our country. What do you think still needs to be done to end it? I mean, we saw in our previous clip the commemoration of some of those women who died and who were stalwarts, and who marched for our freedom in 1956. And they are now saying that we need to carry this fight forward. What are some of the things that young women like yourselves need to do, in the fight against gender-based violence?
It's a very sore topic because it's amazing. We're generations later, we're in the 21st century, and we're still talking about the same things. And instead of getting better, it seems to be worsening. So as young people, community is everything. Within our communities, we need to start going back to the model of it takes a village, to raise our children, to raise our girls, to raise our boys. For the most part, growing up, we've been told as females, how to act, how to dress, how to stay out of trouble. But I feel that the narrative needs to change slightly. The females are the victims. We're not doing this to ourselves. We already know how to act not to get yourselves in these situations. Maybe the narrative needs to change in how we raise our boys, what not to do. That young girl is walking over there. Don't attack her. As a community, as a society, as a country, we need to stop shining the spotlight on the victims. And maybe when we start shining the light on the actual perpetrators, future generations may be saved. We have posters, we have females that have been abused, that have been a subject to violence, and they're the poster child of the gender-based violence. Maybe the poster should change and have the men that are perpetuating this. There might be a change. That's the one thing as a country we haven't done. And I would start there. We start with our communities, start raising our boys' rights, talking to our boys and telling them that, it is not the girl that invites this on themselves. It is another gender imposing themselves on them. Let's tackle it from a different perspective, and maybe we have a bit of change.
Nombuso, it was an absolute pleasure chatting to you. I just want to say, you know, on the channel, it was a decision that we wanted to just, you know, shine the light on women like yourselves that are doing remarkable things in your own space, you know, to forward the cause of women. So thank you for that, and thank you so much for your time this afternoon.
Thank you so much, Unati.